The delicate sugar flowers she crafted with steady hands had replaced the intricate wires and explosive devices she'd once diffused under enemy fire. But Staff Sergeant Maria A. Santos still approached every wedding cake with the same life or death precision that had kept her alive through 4 tours in Afghanistan. Maria, 62, sat in the 7th row of the Tonight Show studio, her bomb disposal expert's eyes automatically scanning for exits and potential threats, while her steady hands moved in unconscious, wire-cutting motions on her lap. The small Sweet Dreams Bakery 20 Years Excellence pin on her floral apron caught the studio lights as she adjusted her position with the controlled movements of someone who had spent years working in situations where one wrong move could be fatal. To the hundreds of brides whose wedding cakes Maria had designed over 2 decades, she was just another talented pastry artist who somehow never seemed nervous under pressure and had an almost supernatural attention to detail. What they didn't know was that their wedding cakes were being created by a woman who had defused over 400 improvised explosive devices in some of the world's most dangerous combat zones. What Maria didn't know was that her story had been quietly circulating among military veteran communities after someone had recognized her in a local newspaper feature about Queen's most creative wedding cake designer. The article had included a photo that caught the attention of former EOD, explosive ordnance disposal, technicians who remembered Sergeant Santos as one of the most fearless and skilled bomb disposal experts in military history. Maria's story had begun in the aftermath of 9/11, when a sense of duty had compelled her to enlist in the Army at age 35, leaving behind her job as an electrical engineer to serve her country in its most dangerous missions. Born in Puerto Rico to parents who had instilled in her both mechanical aptitude and unwavering courage, Maria had shown an instinctive understanding of complex systems and the kind of steady nerves that EOD work demanded. And the training had been among the most rigorous in the military. 6 months of intensive instruction in recognizing, approaching, and neutralizing explosive devices that could kill not just the technician, but everyone within a blast radius. Maria had learned to read the minds of bomb makers, to understand the psychology behind improvised explosive devices, and to make split-second decisions that meant the difference between life and death for herself and her fellow soldiers. Over 4 tours in Afghanistan between 2002 and 2010, Staff Sergeant Santos had become a legend among EOD units. She'd approach roadside bombs, suicide vests, and building clearing operations with a combination of technical expertise and intuitive understanding that had earned her the respect of both superiors and subordinates. Her record of 400-plus successful disposals without a single casualty had made her one of the most decorated female soldiers of her generation. But the constant stress of life or death decisions, the weight of responsibility for other people's lives, and the accumulation of PTSD symptoms had taken their toll. After her final tour, Maria had struggled with the transition to civilian life, finding that few careers outside the military required the kind of intense focus and precision that had defined her identity as a soldier. The cake decorating had started as occupational therapy recommended by VA counselors. Working with delicate sugar flowers and intricate piping techniques provided the same requirements for steady hands and absolute precision that had made her excellent at bomb disposal, but channeled that intensity toward creating beauty instead of preventing destruction. The Tonight Show tickets had been a surprise gift from the brides, whose weddings Maria had made perfect over 2 decades. Women who had stayed in touch and wanted to honor the artist who had somehow made their most stressful day feel completely secure and beautifully executed. It was a Friday night taping in April, and Jimmy was in good spirits after interviewing a celebrity chef about her new cookbook. During his commercial break interaction with the audience, his attention was drawn to Maria by her alert posture and the way she observed her surroundings with obvious tactical awareness. Ma'am, you have incredible focus and attention to detail. Are you in a profession that requires precision? Maria straightened with the automatic response of someone who had spent years reporting to superior officers. Cake decorator, sir. I designed wedding cakes at Sweet Dreams Bakery in Queens. Been there 20 years, requires very steady hands and attention to detail. A warm murmur went through the nearby audience members. Wedding cake decoration was artistic work that brought joy to people's special occasions, and 20 years of creating memorable celebrations deserved recognition. 20 years of wedding cake artistry, that must require incredible patience and skill under pressure. Maria's face lit up with genuine pride in her craft. Yes, sir, brides can be very particular about their vision, and wedding day is most important day of their lives. Cannot make mistakes. Everything must be perfect, executed flawlessly, no room for error. You talk about it almost like a military operation. Very precise language. Well, good training teaches you that details matter, that preparation prevents problems, whether you're decorating cake or handling other situations that require precision. Jimmy noticed something in Maria's tone, a discipline and authority that suggested experience with genuinely high stakes situations, not just wedding stress. Maria, have you always worked in baking? You seem to have experience with pressure beyond normal cake decorating. Maria paused, as if deciding how much of her background to reveal. Actually, I served in the army for 8 years before I started baking, different kind of precision work, but similar attention to detail. The mention of military service caught the audience's attention, but something in Maria's careful phrasing suggested more than typical army experience. What did you do in the army? EOD, Explosive Ordnance Disposal, Bomb Disposal Specialist, served 4 tours in Afghanistan. The casual way she mentioned bomb disposal caused a stunned silence in the studio. EOD technicians were among the most elite and dangerous specialists in the military. Jimmy's curiosity exploded. This wasn't just a career change story. This was someone who had gone from defusing bombs in combat zones to decorating wedding cakes. Jimmy made a decision that would change everything. Maria, bomb disposal is one of the most dangerous jobs in the military. Would you mind coming down here and telling us about that service? Maria looked uncertain. Oh, I don't think people want to hear about military stories at an entertainment show. That was a different life. Trust me, people definitely want to hear about that level of service. Come on down. As Maria made her way to the stage with the controlled movement of someone who had once approached live explosives, her bearing transformed completely. The confident presence of someone who had faced death daily and learned to function under ultimate pressure. When she reached the stage, Jimmy guided her to a comfortable chair. Ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy announced, this is Staff Sergeant Maria Santos. For 20 years, she's been creating beautiful wedding cakes, but before that, she spent 8 years in the Army defusing bombs in Afghanistan. Maria, tell us about your EOD service. Maria settled into the chair, and when she spoke about her military career, her voice took on the authority and precision of someone who had mastered one of the most demanding technical fields imaginable. EOD technicians are called when there are suspected explosive devices, roadside bombs, suicide vests, unexploded ordnance. Our job was to approach these devices, analyze their construction, and either defuse them safely or conduct controlled detonations to eliminate the threat. The audience was completely quiet, understanding they were hearing about life or death military operations. How many explosive devices did you handle? Maria's expression grew more serious, reflecting on memories that had defined her military career. Over 400 successful disposals during my tours. Roadside IEDs were the most common, improvised explosive devices hidden along convoy routes. Each one was different, built by bomb makers with varying levels of sophistication. 400 bombs? Maria, that's incredible. Weren't you terrified? Fear is normal, sir, but training teaches you to channel that fear into focus. When you approach an IED, you follow protocols, trust your training, and make decisions based on technical analysis, not emotion. Lives depend on your ability to think clearly under pressure. Jimmy reached behind his chair and pulled out a tablet loaded with military records and commendation documents. Maria, we did some research before tonight's show. He showed her archived military citations and award records. According to Army records, Staff Sergeant Maria Santos received the Bronze Star, Purple Heart, and Army Commendation Medal for her EOD service. Maria looked surprised. You found my military records? We did. Listen to this citation for your Bronze Star. Staff Sergeant Santos displayed extraordinary courage and technical expertise while neutralizing enemy explosive devices. Her actions directly saved the lives of dozens of fellow soldiers and civilians. The studio fell completely silent. The audience was processing that they were meeting a genuine war hero who had risked her life to protect others. Ira, you were wounded in action? Maria's voice grew quieter. Purple Heart was for injuries sustained during a particularly complex disposal. Device detonated partially while I was working on it, blast through me several meters, but the primary charge was neutralized. Minor injuries compared to what could have happened. How do you go from diffusing bombs to decorating wedding cakes? Maria smiled for the first time since taking the stage. Both require steady hands, absolute attention to detail, and ability to work under pressure. But with cakes, if you make mistake, bride might cry. With bombs, mistake means people die. I prefer making brides happy. Jimmy continued reading from the tablet. Maria, we found something else. Several of your fellow EOD technicians have been trying to locate you. They want to honor your service. My unit wants to honor me? Listen to this from your former commanding officer. Sergeant Santos was the most skilled and fearless EOD technician I served with in 30 years of military service. Her technical expertise and calm under pressure saved countless lives. She deserves recognition as one of our military's greatest heroes. Jimmy stood and addressed the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, this woman spent 8 years in Afghanistan defusing bombs to protect American soldiers and Afghan civilians, then spent 20 years bringing joy to couples on their wedding day. He turned back to Maria. The military community wants to honor you. The Pentagon wants to feature your story in their EOD Hall of Fame, and several veteran organizations want to offer you positions, helping other female combat veterans transition to civilian careers. Maria's eyes filled with tears. They want to honor my service? They do. And Maria, there's something else. Your EOD expertise is still needed. The Department of Homeland Security wants to offer you a consulting position, training civilian bomb disposal teams. Maria sat in stunned silence. They want me to teach EOD techniques? Because, Maria, what you learned saving lives in Afghanistan could help save lives here at home. Your expertise doesn't become obsolete, it becomes more valuable with experience. Jimmy had one more surprise. We have someone here who wanted to meet you. From backstage, Master Sergeant Lisa Rodriguez, currently serving EOD instructor, appeared in her dress uniform carrying a folded American flag. Sergeant Santos, Master Sergeant Rodriguez, said, approaching with obvious respect, I've been teaching EOD techniques for 10 years, and your service record is legendary among current technicians. You represent the highest standards of courage and technical expertise. Maria was openly crying now, overwhelmed by recognition from the military community she'd served with such distinction. You know my service record? Every EOD technician knows the name Maria Santos. 400 disposals without a casualty is a record that inspires current bomb disposal specialists. You set the standard for excellence under pressure. Jimmy sat back down beside Maria. Maria, you've spent 20 years thinking your military service was in the past, but what you really did was apply the same life-saving precision to bringing happiness to families celebrating love. As they helped Maria back to her seat, she stopped and looked out at the audience one more time. Thank you for honoring my service, but I want people to know veterans bring unique skills to civilian careers. Whether we're defusing bombs or decorating cakes, we bring dedication, precision, and commitment to excellence that serves our communities long after our military service ends. The episode that aired became one of the most powerful Tonight Show segments ever, sparking conversations about veteran transitions and the hidden heroes working in everyday jobs. Maria's story inspired several major corporations to actively recruit veterans for positions requiring precision and stress management, recognizing that military training provided skills valuable far beyond traditional security roles. The Maria Santos Veterans Transition Fund was established to help female combat veterans find meaningful civilian careers. Maria accepted the DHS consulting position and spent her retirement training the next generation of bomb disposal experts while continuing to create wedding cakes part-time, discovering that leaving full-time EOD work hadn't ended her service. It had expanded her impact to protect both military and civilian lives. At 64, Maria still approaches every task with military precision, still believes that excellence under pressure can save lives or create joy, and still carries her EOD badge alongside her Baker certification, a reminder that true heroes continue serving their communities long after their combat tours end, one perfectly executed mission at a time. Because sometimes the most important battles aren't fought with weapons, but with the skills, dedication, and courage that veterans bring to protecting and celebrating the lives of the people they've sworn to serve.